The night the Dupree dynasty burned began as a celebration. Silk gowns shimmered, glasses clinked, and every corner of Fairmont Crest pulsed with the illusion of perfection. No one suspected that beneath the chandelier's glow lay a web of deceit so intricate it would devour them all before dawn. Derek's wedding to Ashley was supposed to unite power and love into a single empire, but Andre's intrusion turned it into a declaration of war. In the shadows, Ted and Leslie whispered over a hidden fortune, clutching a USB drive loaded with secrets capable of erasing generations of wealth and legacy. When the lights went out, a scream tore through the music, and by the time they flickered back on, blood and betrayal had become indistinguishable. Hours later, the mansion was a pyre, its iron gates glowing red against the sky, and Leslie's cold smile glimmered in the reflection of fire. What unfolded inside those walls was more than scandal, it was annihilation. The night Fairmont Crest proved that every dynasty, no matter how powerful, eventually burns from within. The lights inside Fairmont Crest shimmered like polished lies, every glint from a champagne glass reflecting the weight of hidden sin. Derek and Ashley's wedding, what was meant to be a symbol of union and renewal, had become a masquerade of betrayal. Music played, laughter drifted, but beneath the golden decor, something rancid was spreading. Ashley's hands trembled in Derek's grasp, her smile mechanical. She wanted to believe this night marked a beginning, not the stage for their undoing. But then Andre appeared, and the illusion shattered. He stood at the center of the hall, elegant as ever, voice calm as poison. Once Derek's most trusted ally, Andre had turned orchestrator of chaos. He had manipulated every thread of this marriage, guest lists, finances, alliances, his control absolute. What began as friendship had rotted into dominance, and when he took the microphone and spoke of a traitor within the Dupree family, his words detonated in the air like gunfire. The crowd froze, eyes darting from one face to another, confusion thickening into dread. Ashley felt her stomach twist. Was Andre speaking of her, or Derek? Andre's smirk said everything, truth and accusation were one and the same. At a corner table, Ted watched quietly, face unreadable. Beside him sat Leslie, glass of wine in hand, the embodiment of serenity concealing catastrophe. Only hours earlier, they had sealed a pact in secrecy, a financial cover-up that, if exposed, would destroy them both. The USB drive in Leslie's purse contained every trace of the fraud they'd buried, falsified transfers, forged signatures, and proof of misappropriation that tied directly to the Dupree Foundation. Ted needed Leslie to keep silent. Leslie needed Ted to shield her from exposure. But Leslie knew what Ted didn't: knowledge was a weapon sharper than fear, and she alone held the trigger. When Andre declared that betrayal was festering within the family, Leslie's pulse quickened. She had seen too many of these performances, the righteous accuser unmasking sin before an audience of the damned. Andre's game wasn't about truth, it was about control. He wanted to reclaim the spotlight, to remind everyone that he, not Derek, dictated the balance of power. But even he could not foresee what would happen next. The power failed. A shriek of static, then darkness swallowed the room. Panic followed, shattering glass, footsteps colliding, someone gasping. Then came a single scream, piercing and final. When the lights returned, chaos had rewritten the scene. The USB was gone. Leslie's handbag lay open, her face a portrait of calm horror. Ted's expression cracked, fear, disbelief, calculation. Derek stood frozen, his tuxedo spattered with something dark. Ashley collapsed, shaking, eyes locked on the empty spot where the drive had been. Andre, the instigator, stood motionless, blood slick on his palm though no one knew whose it was. No words were exchanged, only the sound of champagne dripping off the table onto the marble floor, each drop echoing like a countdown. Somewhere amid the hysteria, Leslie slipped away. She moved through the corridors like a ghost who had finally found purpose. The USB wasn't stolen, she had passed it off long before the chaos began. Her plan had worked perfectly: Andre's outburst, Ted's panic, Derek's unraveling, all necessary distractions. Outside, the air smelled of smoke. The great iron gates of the Dupree estate glowed orange against the night as fire began to rise from within. Leslie paused only once, her reflection caught in the burning glass doors, her cold smile flickering with the flames. By dawn, Fairmont Crest was a ruin of ash and rumor. No one could agree on what had happened. Some claimed Derek had attacked Andre. Others said Andre had exposed proof of the Foundation's corruption before being silenced. The police found fragments of a melted USB near the ballroom, but the data was unsalvageable. Ted lost everything, his position, his fortune, his name. Ashley withdrew into silence, haunted by the suspicion that Derek had never been innocent. Andre vanished, leaving behind whispers that he had fled overseas with whatever secret survived the fire. Leslie became myth. Some said she died in the blaze, others swore they'd seen her in distant cities, living under new names. Yet every year, on the anniversary of the fire, a single envelope arrived at the Dupree offices, unsigned, untraceable, containing a photograph of the mansion aflame, and a single sentence written in elegant handwriting: "The truth always burns the loudest." In the ruins of the Dupree Empire, power no longer belonged to the righteous or the rich, it belonged to the last one standing. And on that night, beneath the embers and the smoke, Leslie Dupree stood alone. By morning, the ashes of Fairmont Crest still smoked against a colorless sky, the scent of ruin mingling with perfume and gunpowder. The grandeur of the Dupree estate, the marble columns, the manicured gardens, the gilded ballroom, now stood as a skeletal monument to deceit. Firefighters moved through the wreckage like silent monks, dousing embers that refused to die, while cameras outside the gates captured every angle of humiliation. News anchors called it the end of an empire, but the truth was murkier, soaked in motives and half-burned evidence. Inside the ruins, the ghosts of the previous night clung to every surface: shattered crystal, scattered roses, and a single heel abandoned beside the scorched grand piano. The world would spend weeks dissecting what happened, yet no one would ever agree on who struck first, or why. Derek's name was the first to surface in the reports, his photograph printed beside headlines about betrayal and collapse. He had vanished before dawn, leaving behind only a blood-stained cufflink near the entrance to the wine cellar. Some believed he fled out of shame, others whispered that he never left the property at all. Ashley, meanwhile, was found hours later wandering the perimeter road barefoot, her wedding gown singed, her eyes hollow. When questioned, she spoke only one sentence: "He took everything." Whether she meant Andre, Derek, or the house itself, no one could tell. The doctors called it trauma, the press called it guilt. In a world where truth was a luxury, silence became the only form of survival. Ted faced his own reckoning. The financial scandal he thought buried now clawed its way into daylight, amplified by the disappearance of the Dupree accounts and the missing USB. Investigators combed through what remained of the servers, finding fragments of forged signatures and coded transactions. His name was everywhere. On documents, on emails, on deals made under shadowed names. When he tried to speak to the board, no one answered his calls. Even the allies who once drank from his glass now turned away, afraid of contamination. And yet, the cruelest twist was that the evidence against him had been placed there deliberately. Someone had rewritten the script, transforming Ted from a co-conspirator into the scapegoat. He understood then what Leslie had meant when she told him power was not about who holds the truth, but who gets to tell it. The fire was ruled accidental, though the flames had moved too cleanly, too deliberately, to be chance. Insurance investigators claimed faulty wiring, but the timing betrayed them. The blaze had started in the very wing where the safe containing the USB had been stored. Of the device itself, only melted fragments were recovered, fused into the metal casing of a champagne tray. Yet even destroyed, it carried an unspoken threat. Someone, somewhere, still had the data. And if Leslie had indeed walked away with a copy, she now held the keys to every fortune tied to the Dupree name. For days, the media hunted her. The last confirmed sighting placed her at a gas station outside D.C., wearing black, her hair tied back, face hidden beneath sunglasses. She had left behind no trail of money, no digital footprint. A witness claimed she smiled at him as she paid in cash, as if she already knew she was stepping into legend. Whether she fled to Europe, South America, or simply vanished into the underbelly of the city, no one could say. But what lingered was the symbolism of her exit, the image caught by one security camera of her silhouette walking away while the fire glowed behind her. It became a headline, a metaphor, an omen. The woman who burned an empire, one paper read. Others were less poetic, Dupree dynasty destroyed by its own. In the weeks that followed, Fairmont Crest was sealed off by authorities. Reporters camped outside, waiting for something. Anything, to emerge from the rubble. They found nothing. But the whispers persisted. Some said Andre had survived and escaped with the original USB, bargaining it to foreign investors. Others claimed Derek had returned in secret, consumed by guilt, seeking revenge on the last person who betrayed him. Still others swore they saw Leslie's reflection in the blackened windows during the night, as though she had never truly left. Fairmont Crest became less a location than a myth, a monument to ambition's decay, a warning wrapped in diamonds and ash. Months later, the estate was finally demolished. Yet when the wrecking crew arrived, one of them found something strange buried beneath the debris, a steel locket untouched by the flames, containing a photograph of Ashley and Derek on their wedding day. Inside, on the back of the photo, was an inscription carved in Bill Dupree's handwriting. Years before any of this began, the ones who inherit power never own it, they survive it. When the sun set that evening, the last walls of Fairmont Crest collapsed with a low groan, scattering dust that shimmered like the remnants of gold. The fire had ended, but its story had only just begun, passed from rumor to record, from tragedy to legacy. The Dupree name would live on, not as a dynasty, but as a curse whispered in the halls of every empire built on greed. And somewhere far away, in a room illuminated only by the glow of a single screen, a woman with cold eyes watched the footage of the destruction and smiled. The USB drive was right where she wanted it to be, reborn, rewritten, waiting for the next chapter of Fairmont Crest to ignite.